Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out to the Central Library today. I'm Kevin Alcuni, a librarian here in the Exploration and Creativity Department.
And I am Celia Avila de Santiago, the Senior Librarian with the Exploration and Creativity Department. And we're here to welcome you to this afternoon's LA Made program. LA Made presents Strong Words, Endless LA Summer.
Yay, you can clap.
Yay!
You can high five. All right, we were practicing. Now, before we begin, we'd like to take a moment to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities, our Library Foundation, and our behind-the-scenes staff for helping bring the LA Made programs to you. LA Made focuses on the diverse landscape of Los Angeles, highlighting the immense artistic and performance talent that has developed in the course of the city's eclectic history. If you'd like to see more of our amazing programs, please visit our online calendar at lapl.org/events. And for our LA Made programs, visit lapl.org/LAMade.
We would also like to take this opportunity to recognize and acknowledge the first people of this land, honor their elders, past and present, as well as their descendants who are citizens of these nations. For more information on which territory you may reside on, check out native-land.ca. And so, just a couple of housekeeping questions, tips before we begin.
I have questions.
Me too.
All right.
All right, so if you would all please silence your electronic devices so as to not distract our amazing speakers this afternoon. Also, please take a moment to note the location of the exits at the back and the side of the auditorium, just in case of an emergency. If you parked in the garage underneath the library today, you can get your parking ticket validated at the information desk in the main lobby, and the parking will only be $1 so long as you parked after 1 p.m. and leave before 5 p.m. And lastly, please no eating or drinking in the auditorium unless it's bottled water, and the bathrooms are just down the hallway to your right.
All right. Great job.
You too.
It's not halfway done. All right. Now for today's amazing program. Yeah, we'll get off of here. Strong Words, the favorite storytelling for grown-up show of Silver Lake and Atwater Village, recently toasted 13 years and 100 shows with an epic outdoor event at the Autry Museum. Yeah, come on, guys, let's get this energy. Yeah, there we go. Today's program is the Salon's 5th appearance at LA Made, and the Strong Words crew promises a delightful Sunday afternoon for all of you Angelinos as you bask in the air-conditioned splendor of the magnificent Mark Taper Auditorium. Drink in the AC. These are Larry's words, not mine. Voices of the city for this performance include Roy Cruz, Jimmy Walsh Doyle, Marlene Nichols, Brett Paisley, yeah, come on. Lynn Thompson, and special musical guest, Jason Luckett. And now here to kick off today's program is your host with the most, well, did I write that? Perhaps your favorite Larry Dean Harris.
Let's put a little beat behind it, boys. Yeah. All right. So, hey, welcome to Strong Words 101. How about that? This show is all about summer in LA, and whenever you mention summer in LA, it conjures up beautiful young men who come out and serenade you. So please welcome, with Marcella on the percussion, Mr. Jason Luckett.
You can sing that. One time. Do you know the way to make a rainbow? Do you know the way to make a smile? Do you know the way to make the sun shine bright? Stay a while. Because you and me, we got something in the way we move. They may love us, they may want us, they can't help themselves. 'Cause we're brighter than the noonday sun when we combine. Sing that. Little baby swinging on the tether. Little baby rocking in his chair. While looking at us, we're just spending time. Stay a while, 'cause you and me, we got something in the way we move. They may love us, they may want us, they can't help themselves. 'Cause we're bright on the midday sun when we combine. Dream a dream for me, and in time you'll see you're as free as me. Oh, I love my life, won't you be my you and me? We got something in the way we move. They may love us, they may want us, they can't help themselves. 'Cause we're bright on midday sun when we combine. Hello, obrigado, and I love you. Notice oblige me, shining kind. Make a sense of wonder is a crime for fools. Stay a while, because you and me, we got something in the way we move. They may love us, they may want us, they can't help themselves. 'Cause we're right on the midday sun when we come back. Right on the midday sun when we come back. Right on the midday sun when we come back. Right on the midday sun when we come back. When we come back.
That is how you start a show. Thanks, fellas. They will be back at the end. Wow. So, as I mentioned, this is our 101st show, which is crazy in the best possible way. We just celebrated last month at the Autry Museum. We did a big outdoor show, and it was hot. And we had an amazing banda band and some of our favorite storytellers and booze, which we don't have here because it's the library. But they do let us swear. So you might hear a little of that. Who was here for the very first time? Who are my virgins? So 1 hand, 2, 3. Really? 4, 5. Oh, you're also timid. I'm not going to make you stand up or anything. Don't worry. All right. So there are some rules. Regulars? No rules. There are no rules. This is your show. I am just window dressing. So if you would like to participate, if you want to say hell yeah, if you want to say thank you, Jesus, we're all in. If you want to say the host sucks. No. All right. I thought for sure Loretta would chime in on that. She was, I knew she's this close. pictures, you can tick, you can talk, you can X, not the X on the computer, not the X that you take. We invite you to do so. Let's tell some stories, shall we?
Yeah.
He's a Strong Words favorite, making his second or third appearance on this stage. Is your third time? Second. All right. Please welcome back to the LA Made stage, Mr. Roy Cruz.
Hi. So a couple of days ago, the great actress Jenna Rollins passed away, and I was supposed to tell a story, but I wrote something in tribute for her. I wrote it a long time ago before she died, but it's worth telling again. Okay. The title is Searching for Jenna Rollins. I was playing dress up in my parents' bedroom. I took the sheets from the bed and draped into a Grecian-inspired dress. I looked like Helen of Troy in chiffon. My mother didn't mind me playing dress up. To her, I was saving her money. She didn't have to buy me toys. I only had to play with her purses and shoes, and on special occasions, her sapphire-encrusted brooch. I pretended to be at a cocktail party, turning the bedroom into Studio 54. It was a humid evening typical of a Philippine summer that made my chiffon sachet in a delayed fashion. We lived in a modest two-story house in Manila. There was the boys' room and the girls' room, and I took the guest room. But I would always play in my parents' bedroom because it was private and the bed sheets were made of silk and white, 300 count cotton. Within that room was my mother's boudoir, which also functioned as her little prayer room. Filipino mothers always have their own prayer rooms. In it, she had the statue of the Virgin Mary, a wig stand, perfumes, and lots of Estee Lauder makeup. It had mirrors that delicately showed your front, back, and at a certain time of the day, it showed your soul. When mother was away, I would always be there trying on her jewelry, scarves, and reading the articles she cut out from magazines. I was drowning in the clinking and the clanking of my own private party when my older sister walked into the room and started to laugh. I ignored her like a snooty socialite. She got pissed off and called me a fag. I didn't mind it the first time, but on the second, I felt the judgment. I cried. The word pierced through my chiffon dress, then to my camisole, and then to my heart. My mother must have heard the shots, so she called me into her boudoir. I was afraid that the conversation would turn hostile. She might start yelling and disown me. I prayed to the Virgin Mary. I knew she would always listen. And besides, we both have the same flair for draped fabric. My mother said, if you are really like that, you have to be brave. Learn how to defend yourself because life would be very difficult. I'd listen to her words as I wiped the tears with the hem of my Cagney and lacy kaftan. I changed my clothes and watched TV and reflected on what my mother had just said. I had to have courage. During the commercial break, I caught the trailer of the movie Gloria, starring Jenna Rollins. What I saw was a middle-aged woman running around in what seemed to be a beautifully constructed bolero jacket and a bias-cut skirt. She runs around the streets of New York with a young boy while aiming a gun. The scene shown in the preview was Jenna Rollins pointing a gun and saying, "Go ahead, try me. You let a woman beat you. You punk. Go ahead, punk." The dress and the gun and the words, "Go ahead, punk," made an indelible mark in my heart. I said to myself, when I grow up, I want to be like Gloria. My friends had their own superheroes, Wonder Woman, Bionic Woman, or ISIS, but I was different. My idol was a flawed, foul-mouthed former felon who carried the gun the way my mother wore her charm bracelet. My fetish for chiffon cocktail outfits disappeared like fog and was replaced by Gloria's impeccable taste for silk trench-style coat dresses and effortless print wrap dresses. I saved enough money for a bus fare and a movie ticket. I wore my best. It was like attending a movie premiere. I wore my royal blue shirt, stretched jeans, and saddle shoes. It was the first time I went to the movies by myself, the first time I felt like a grown-up. The movie started with Bill Conti's soundtrack. As the opening credits rolled, there was one line that really caught my eye. It said, "The clothes of Miss Jenna Rowlands were designed by Emmanuel Ungaro." Emmanuel Ungaro, remember the name distinctly because it's one of my mother's favorite perfumes. She always had it at the top shelf where I couldn't reach it. Ungaro, it was such a powerful name, more powerful than Cassavetes, Hitchcock, or Hershey's. Emmanuel Ungaro was a French designer known for exuberant mixing of color prints, voluminous, layered styles that dominated high fashion of the late 70s. The movie was about a woman's unexpected duty to protect a Puerto Rican boy from being killed. The boy's father worked for the mob that snitched to the FBI. The whole family was executed except for the boy who escaped with Gloria. Gloria was connected to the mob, but this time her maternal hormones kicked in and she found herself doing the right thing, saving the boy. My mother told me, defend yourself. If I was going to defend myself, I want to have Gloria's clothes. She wore a silk suit when she shot the thugs that wanted to kill the boy. The organza jacket and the pleated taffeta skirt were just divine as she used a magnum to kill a gangster in Spanish Harlem. Ungaro's classic creation she wore when she confronted Mr. Tanzini proudly spelled her name W-O-M-A-N. After seeing the movie, I couldn't wait to go home. Heading home, I channeled Jenna Rowlands. I saw the city of Manila as the island of Manhattan. The mild-mannered Filipinos in the bus with me all look like feisty Puerto Ricans. The view from the bus window had the shade of an apocalyptic gray, typical of the 70s New York films. Midtown Manila suddenly became Midtown Manhattan, and I became Gloria. I arrived at an empty house. The silence provided me the sanctuary and the runway to express myself and style. Skimming through my mother's closet, I looked for a dress that Gloria would slip me the courage I need. I found a silk crepe knee-length robe and improvised it into a wrap dress. I took my mother's Gucci shoulder bag. For a suitcase, I found a Scrabble board that had a handle and when folded looked like a small suitcase. I got my little brother's toy gun. I checked it for water, just the way Gloria checked her gun. To complete the look, I had to have the most important accessory, the Puerto Rican boy. I took my sister Dirty Cabbage Patch Kid doll. Glory was now in the house and ready to kill. I recreated all the scenes I could remember. My parents' bedroom was the Upper West Side, the basement was the Lower East Side, and the bathroom was the 42nd Street Times Square station. I held the doll as we ran up and down the stairs while carrying the Scrabble board. I hailed a cab in our garage and roamed in the empty car that was parked. I threatened to shoot the chairs in the dining room if they didn't leave us alone. Time was running out. I had to make a decision. The doll and me had to hide. It was terrifying when you know you're being pursued by the mob or my family. The only safe place was my mother's boudoir. It was almost 8 o'clock. I soon realized that my arms was outstretched by the gun. I held the Scrabble board tightly. I was breathing heavily, the Bill Conti theme rhythmically beating in my head. I could hear the Cabbage Patch doll praying in Spanish. I heard the footsteps. I cocked the gun and the door opened. It was my mother and my sister. My mother looked at me bemused. I knew my sister was about to say the dreaded three-letter word again. But I pointed the gun at her and said, "Go ahead, punk."
I like being here I like being closer to you. That was Mr. Roy Cruz. How about that? Our next storyteller is the reason you are all here today. About 14 years ago, I think, I did a show in Hollywood, and this kind of abrasive person came up to me and said, you're good. You ought to have a show of your own. And so when it came time to ask people, you better believe I called on Mr. Jimmy Walsh Doyle. Please welcome back Jimmy Doyle.
You forgot your joke.
Oh, can I tell it?
Yeah.
This wasn't planned at all. Jimmy is so Irish.
How Irish is he?
He knows where he was when Sinead O'Connor died.
And I do. I was doing my day job. I'm a counselor in addiction treatment, and we were doing music group. I got an alert on my phone. I said, "It's break time." I came back, I played nothing but Sinead O'Connor, and those heroin addicts from Oklahoma didn't know what fucking hit them. This was written about a trip many years ago, a summer trip many years ago. 3 font sizes ago, I wrote this piece. So it was a lot of cutting and pasting and bigger, cutting and pasting, so. It's called Slánamhaile. He left me 9 days before a trip to Ireland. We'd planned it, and he had referred to our last trip there as our honeymoon. I have dual citizenship with Ireland and an Irish passport, and we'd even said we could retire there someday. We'd made deposits on cottages to stay in. I was on my cousin's insurance for the car. We had lots of plans. 9 days before our trip, with reserved cottages in the same town where we'd rung in the new year, Paul dropped the bomb. On a Sunday night, because Sunday nights don't suck enough. I fled to Ireland with a broken heart, not knowing how I'd do it. I just knew that I couldn't stay in LA and watch him pack up our home. The day before I left, he asked me if I needed help packing and did I want to ride to the airport or to borrow his camera. See, to him, we were friends now. I took a cab. I swear to God, on the flight from LA to Philadelphia, the seat next to me was empty. Paul's presence floated around the plane like a heartbreaking Elijah. He had told me on that Sunday night that he had never really loved me and had never really found me attractive. Right? With like a smile. Like, I just never really liked you. Asshole. He said it's time to move on, have a nice trip. Ta bra norum, I am so sorry. I arrived in Ireland and went to the home of my cousin Tony and his wife Margaret. Tony is my cousin in the way that Americans talk about Irish cousins. We are third cousins. Our great-grandfathers were brothers. And we had met once the previous December when I was in Ireland with Paul, back when he didn't like me or want to fuck me, but would travel with me. We'd hit it off quite well, my cousins and I, and they thought I was great crack, which is Irish for fun. The shell of a smoking depressive who arrived at their house must have been a shock. They were very kind and gentle, but I found out that one doesn't really have emotions in Ireland. Mind yourself became the closest to a heart-to-heart I could find in Mallow, County Cork. Ireland was in the midst of a major heat wave and a rash of suicides. The government was concerned that Ireland's suicide rate for young men in their early 20s was 4 times that of the rest of the European Union. Every day on the news, after the Angelus rang, there would be a story of one more suicide. An American tourist jumped off the cliffs of Moher, the most gorgeous sheer drop on the west coast of Ireland. I'd been there with my father in 1977. It's my favorite picture that I have of the two of us. For the first time in my life on that trip, standing at the cliffs, I felt proud and safe with my dad, almost connected. He said quietly as the fog and the wind and the sea spray rolled around us, "I've been here before." I said, "I thought you'd never been to Ireland before." And he said, "No, I've been here in another time." Okay, for my father to make reference to reincarnation was about as absurd as if he had said, "Let's be Jewish." I didn't know how to respond, so I did whatever I did. When I felt safe and warm with my father, I froze, hoping I wouldn't ruin it. My mother was down in the car. She hated Ireland. She didn't want to go to the cliffs. She hated the cold and the rain, and she hated the plumbing. What I now know was her mental illness, to me, felt like her being kind of a drag. But I couldn't say that. I couldn't ever say anything about my mother. I could never question my mother. That was one of the rules that was never spelled out but was agreed upon. Her moods were not her fault. She was a suffering, sensitive soul. I hung in the balance between my mother, who hated every minute of the trip, and my father, who was like a pig in shit. I shared a room with them every night for 3 weeks on a trip they'd planned to celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary. They only got to 26 years, in fact. About a year after that trip to Ireland, she sat alone in a car again, and my father and I found her dead in the sealed garage. This was the moment my dissociation began. The sadness choking my airways, my inability to identify red flags, only there to survive and be numbed and blunted. Now in Mallow, as a grown man and orphan, I stood at the grave of my great-grandfather, James Walsh, and thought of his sorrow and pain. He lost all of his children, some to the hunger and others to emigration. I stood before him with my broken heart. I asked for his help. "You must be the gay one then. Mind yourself." In the Irish language, you don't say, "I'm sad." You say, "I have a sadness upon me." It's ta bron orum. Ta bron orum. And that's what the sadness feels like, the real sadness. It's like a hair shirt one can't remove. Wherever I was on that trip, I could feel the sadness upon me, tugging at my shirt tails as I tried to take walks and go to meetings. I took Tony and Margaret's car and went down to Baltimore to meet some friends, my rich Dublin 4 friends during the Celtic Tiger years. I went to meetings in Skibbereen and cried over my gay lover with Cork farmers smelling of pig shit. And they were kind. They were kind to me. My desperation to be heard and comforted overcame my reticence at sharing in meetings in such a small community. I mean, these were people who'd never met an American, much less a gay American, much less a gay American going through a traumatic, post-traumatic depression episode. All in all, they were fairly nice to me. One of the best moments when I was there was they asked for volunteers after a meeting to make tea, And I raised my hand, and a couple of them looked. You can't let the Yank make tea. But then a couple of the old ladies said, he knows how to make tea. The bathhouse in Cork City had horrible water pressure. I discovered that I could be desirable again with my swollen eyes and the fresh scar of a skin cancer biopsy on my stomach. What's invisible in West Hollywood is fresh meat in Cork, and an American accent can get you far. I decided to stay at a gay B&B in Cork City, the Big Smoke, the weekend after Gay Pride, have a laugh and get laid for the comfort that's in it. I drove from Skibbereen up to Cork City in one day during the worst heat wave in recorded history. People were dying in France by the hundreds, and it was 90 degrees in Ireland, 90 degrees on an Atlantic island where they don't have screens in the window, much less air conditioning, 90 degrees, unheard of. But the gay B&B was a gorgeous Georgian house with a beautiful view of the river and a beautiful bedroom on the third floor for me. It was the most romantic place I'd ever seen. And I was the only guest. Alone in a huge bedroom with a fireplace and a sitting area and my things to make tea, should I like? I'd never felt more pitiful in my life. Where is everyone? I asked, my voice shaking. I thought it was Gay Pride Week. The owner of the B&B laughed. No, that was last week. This week it's a ghost town. Have you ever noticed it's always song 7 on the CD that's your favorite? Or is it a different number for different people? Like, is that like astrology? Like I'm a 7 and you're a 4 maybe? Mine is always number 7. Of all the CDs I brought along to Ireland, Sinead O'Connor's new one at the time, it had a beautiful, cheerful song about the famine called Paddy's Lament. That was number 7. And on Joni Mitchell's live album, Miles of Isles, Woman of Heart and Mind was number 7. My cousin Carr only had a tape deck, and there was a Neil Diamond greatest hit stuck in it playing over and over. So I would listen to the radio out of desperation, half of which is in Irish, and which I didn't understand. So I would have to listen to like Top 40. And Dido, this is 20 years ago, Dido was a really big fucking deal. And say what you will about Dido, and I'm sure she's a wonderful person. I didn't need that fucking bitch talking about, I want to thank you for having the best day of my life. I was barely hanging on, and Dido was not helping me. But Joni, when I had my Discman, I could listen to Joni. And I realized on that lonely trip that I am a woman of heart and mind. All my years of trying to be cool for Paul, all the times I tried to hide my aching, bleeding, liberal Irish Catholic heart, I was killing myself. I was sacrificing myself to a relationship that didn't exist. The therapist I saw after this trip, because you know I went to fucking therapy after this trip, when I was talking about the relationship, I said, you know, love, it really hurt me. And she was South African, I can't do the accent. She said, that wasn't love, that was a dynamic. Here is your copay, madam. I didn't stay at the gay B&B. I knew I'd be more tempted to use the window with no screen over the river than I would have been to use the teapot. I kept going. I kept clinging to friends, sobbing and crying over all the rugs that had been pulled out from under me. If my mother had asked me if she should leave, I would have voted no. And I would have voted no for Paul's departure on a Sunday fucking night, but here I was, bereft, left, and wearing sorrow in the hottest sun Ireland had ever seen. I saw a shiatsu masseuse in West Cork. She was from the north. She was a short lady, and she tried her best to help me heal. She told me I was strong, stronger than I knew, and that my rage was my friend. It's energy, and it can protect the child who hearts within you. Luckily, she'd foregone a simple box of Kleenex and just had handed me an entire roll of toilet paper for my massage. Her husband was working on the newer house they lived in, with a lovely garden, and there were kids' toys everywhere. And she did her work in the original house, which was like kind of like a shed with a converted attic, where she did her work, and a little kitchenette. And as I lay there and I wanted to beg her to let me stay, I could maybe help with the kids or teach a monologue workshop. She put her hand on my back where my heart had once lived, and I could feel the heat rising off of me, wave upon wave of grief, grief from my whole life. And she kept whispering in my ear, "It lives, your heart, it lives." She asked me to picture Mother Earth holding me and rocking me, and had me hold my hand over my belly button. I don't know what she meant to make me feel or realize, but I think I figured out where the pain was coming from. I had been ripped from one too many wombs in my day, and it was time to create my own safe home. And at that moment, I knew I couldn't stay in the old country in the shed, and I needed to go burn down whatever was left of the new country I lived in. It was time to create a new space. I remembered how Sylvia Plath described crying. "The water I taste is warm and salt like the sea, and comes from a country as far away as health." That was a country I wanted to visit, and I had 2 passports to get there. When it was time to go after my massage and a cup of tea, as I pulled away from the rocky farm where the masseuse lived with her husband and children, she said farewell to me in the Irish language. Slánabhaile, safe home. Thank you.
Jimmy is writing a book. That's a chunk of the book. I was lucky enough to get to read the proposal and a portion of the book, and it wrecked me in the best possible way. Nobody does it like he does. So, who's up for some amazing poetry? Yeah! If you've never heard poetry live, you're in luck because we've got the very best. Out of all the Los Angeles poet laureates, she is my favorite. Please welcome back Lynn Thompson.
I just love that strong words know that poets are storytellers too. And we love coming to strong words, and so yes, there's poetry, but for those of you who don't know poetry, don't be nervous. I picked out the least scary poetry of all. And I picked out some poems. Larry said, "Where are your summer poems?" I said, "I don't know where the heck my summer poems are. Have you looked at politics?" But I found summer poems. In my summer as a Weimaraner, there are lessons I could teach her, but what does a young girl care about that? It is balmy, and the girl wears her sweater of warm air, while I sport my silky coat. Forepaw arched, eyes eager, I set upon the day's sparrow as a swallowtail lands upon a limb of box elder, hovers, unnoticed, until it is late summer, when avocados ripen to bursting and run and laugh are everything. Everything is afternoon, smell of free to go about. I separate the fruit from its pit, then sleep. The girl rests her head on my warm belly and gulps my plume of sweet breath, easy on the inhale and out. I had a Weimaraner as a girl, and that to me is summer, the time with him, and he loved avocados. We couldn't eat the avocados because the dog would get the avocados first. Larry, this is for you. I live in California, though I like to say I live in Mexico. live on stolen land, although some say that fact's just a spoil of war. I like to say names of places like Bolsa, due to the way it couples. Bolsa Chica, Bolsa Knolls, pretty sounding places, muy bonito, whatever language you speak. I like saying Cucamonga, probably because saying so is a child's game. Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. And should California's teachers be forgiven when they don't teach the history of the Gabrielino or the names those indigenes gave to their places? I can think of no reason to say Downey. Apologies to anyone who's from Downey. I can think of no reason to say Downey, named after the state's 7th governor, born in Ireland, seduced by riches thanks be to the California Gold Rush, a backer of slavery in the Kansas Territory, fan of San Francisco's capitalists. I'd rather say Fresno, meaning ash tree in Spanish. I'd rather say Huzabim Mountain, thinking of the Wynot's buzzard water. I'd rather ponder the myth about the place in Humboldt called Loleta, about which some local Wyots, those yet to be killed off, grin, saying, "Let's have sex." But somehow words get corrupted in translation. Bootleg fire. In California, there were once seasons for fires. When Motown released Martha and her Vandellas Heat Wave, and I shimmied with the doorknob because I was a believer that tomorrow was a vow lit from within, the season usually began with a rudely named Indian summer and was over just about the time the family sat down to gorge on turkey, flash dancing with filmy gravy, macaroni and cheese, and collard greens. There's no such season anymore, and fires are no longer content to play by themselves. See how Oregon's bootleg fire isn't fire only, is lightning, is generator of its own weather, and the clouds' pyrocumulonimbus. But I remember Mrs. Dent, 2nd grade, who taught us nimbostratus, cumulus, and we, thinking that was all there was, hung from monkey bars, skipped rope, stole home. Oh, those days. And these palm trees of ours, lay of a lie. These picture postcard palms, transplants to Southern California, are more closely allied with grasses than with oaks. And so they need abundances of water to thrive. And like the day workers who trim them, need sustenance from elsewhere to make them feel at home. Only the Washingtonian Phyllophora is native, and it has been choked by those imported tropical trees, the Bismarck, the Queen, the Mexican fan. Decorative, exotics giving neither shade nor substance, many were planted in the 1930s to prop up the cinematic lies we love to tell of our lives. Meanwhile, rats thrill their crowns of thatch. Blink, going about its business. Heart pump, nervy eye. Doesn't care for us, and we don't notice. What we notice is the high price of oil, fiddleheads, war, depending on the way Father folds his napkin. We never notice, just beyond the window, California's black-chimmed hummingbird, its loverly beak dipped into trumpet vine, into bee balm, dipped into bliss, tippling the sweet nectar, and never looking back. And I'll close with this one, Ebb Tide. He said, one day when we are old, and his saying so was pure joy, for even as we savored last summer's berries in our mouths, forced the juice from the pulp with our tongues, we knew one day he will be bent, perhaps away from me, or I will ask him to tally the chain of days we have made and have to ask him more than once. Then again, it could be he said nothing at all. Perhaps I only saw him rise to open a window to listen to twilight's breeze rustle aspen. And just this morning, didn't he fill that vase of Lysanthius with fresh water? Thank you.
I could listen to that voice and those words all day. We'll do this again, Lynn, very soon. Oh my gosh, our next storyteller, what doesn't she do? You've seen her on the television. I discovered her in the most amazing sketch comedy troupe. She raised two amazing young citizens, one of whom is going back to school for his second semester. And she's written books, brilliant books, like Mommies Who Drink. That should tell you everything you need to know. Please welcome back Brett Paisel.
All right. I'm noticing a lot of themes today running through all the pieces. It's sort of interesting. I need to move this down. Larry, help. It's this way. Got it? That's okay. I got it. I know what I'm doing. Okay. The morning after my mother died, I took to my bed. This is not a euphemism. My arms were so heavy, my brain so cloudy that I could only lie there for days, drifting in and out of sleep like one of those 18th century sensitive ladies of a certain age with a doily bobby-pinned to her hair. I was surprised by the totality of my grief because my mother had had Alzheimer's for years prior. And throughout that decade, I had developed a dislike for the demanding old woman who had replaced my talented, smart, funny, beautiful mother with a coarse yellow crow who couldn't even hold her head up by herself. What I'm saying is, I assumed that I had already mourned her over and over again. Au contraire, my body told me. What followed my mother's death was a grief so aggressive that it grabbed me by the throat, threatening to drag me down into some cold, dark, airless place more lonely and meaningless than any I had ever visited. And what I learned in the cumulus of the following gray weeks and months is that you can't skip past grief and simply carry on. Not grief like this anyway. A friend once said, "You can stuff that all down and call it cancer." That's what this was like. And yes, eventually you do begin to feel better, even a lot better, I did. So much so that I returned to the third draft of my novel with completely unwarranted optimism. I tend to write novels like a novice hiker in a cave, blindly groping along the sweaty walls until I meet a dead end, and then I have to feel my way back to the entrance over and over again. It's shockingly inefficient. The book is loosely based on my parents' marriage, and it takes place in the 1960s in Newmarket, England. The basic problem with the second draft was it didn't have a plot or an ending. And the two characters who were most elusive happened to be the ones based on my parents. So I decided to spend a month in England, traveling around and writing, and specifically visiting Newmarket, where my family lived for over 50 years ago. Surely being on my own with all those memories would loosen the layers of narrative that had fossilized my memories. Perhaps if I unsettled the terrain of my childhood, I would see my parents more closely. It's hard for me to say this, but I think I was looking for something a bit divine. I'm a funky believer, straddling the empirical and the miraculous always. I can't quite conceive of a God, and I certainly can't imagine existence without her. I tend to believe people who tell me about talking to the dead, the synchronicity of the universe, miracles, visitations, the power of crystals, incantations, and manifestations. I believe it all. It's simply that those things don't tend to happen to me. That said, I was looking for a shakeup, and so I decided to say yes to absolutely everything that came my way in England. I followed people's recommendations. I read books that booksellers pressed into my hands. I gazed at the northern lights well past my bedtime. I said yes, yes, yes to it all. I even stayed in Shrewsbury, Shropshire, which sounds like a mythical place where elves live, pulling pranks on each other for eternity. A family friend, who I also hadn't seen in 50 years, offered to put me up there if I didn't mind, she said, pulling down a ladder to climb up to the attic where I could write. Are you fucking kidding me? Did I mind? How possible, I ask the universe, that every single fantasy of selfhood could be satisfied in that one image of me writing madly in an attic in Shrewsbury? Henry VII had stayed in that town the night before his victory on Bosworth Field, changing the course of European history forever. It was fucking insane. The inn where he stayed was within walking distance, and they had a happy hour. And then there was Newmarket, which looked smaller than I remembered it, but much the same. I cried a lot. Outside the house I lived in, outside the school I went to. This wasn't just sadness over my parents' deaths. I would have recognized that. No, it was something existential, something my inexperienced spiritual self couldn't quite pin down, something that had to do with being older now, time passing, that intense and almost wordless understanding that permeates, that everything ends. A profound and universal truth that is the toughest, I find. All this was passing through me as I sat in a pub down the street from my hostel, weeping onto the pages of my notebook as I tried to language the unlanguageable. As I got up to order chips from the bar, a quintessentially British woman approached. By that, I mean that her thin blonde hair resisted any haircut to define it. And she had lots of teeth, and her eyes were what I would call unironically jolly. I've been sitting here, she said, pointing to her handbag on the table close by, watching you. She placed a hand on my arm. I'm psychic, she went on, and I'm sensing there's a lot of sadness around you. She waved her hand in a circular motion in front of my face. Well, yes, I said, the empiricist in me thinking, you bloody well saw me crying, so yeah. I said to her, my mother died recently. Ah, she said, nodding kindly. I liked her. Well, I would like to give you a reading. No charge. I'm in training, actually. So I need the practice, and there's something about you. I swelled with a little pride. I'm not gonna lie. Strangers never tell me that there's something about me. I'm 63. Strangers rarely see me at all. That said, I have never had much luck with psychics. They tend to make me giggle. And a couple of times that I'd interacted with them was at parties, and I always feel like there's something I fundamentally don't understand about what we're supposed to be doing together. If they guess something right about my character or my family or my job, don't I already know that? And if they predict something in the future and I change it, were they right? And then there's the part where I think the most wonderful thing about being human is that we don't know what's going to happen. So why would I mess with that? But my first few weeks of saying yes to everything in England had already loosened up my thoughts. And let's face it, meeting a psychic in training in a hostel room in Newmarket, England was already a story that was writing itself. Yes, I said to Constance. Let's do this. Already I felt duplicitous somehow, like a non-believer taking communion. This is how Constance came to be sitting across from me in my hostel room, me on the bed and her teetering on one of those impossible poofs that are placed in front of vanities. Don't say anything except yes or no, she told me. Okay, I said, squaring my shoulders and taking a deep breath. This should be easy enough. She stared earnestly into my eyes. I'm getting the name Trudy, she said. Can you take that on? Okay, you see, I already had so many questions, but she had told me only to say yes or no. What does take that on mean? Was she asking if I knew a Trudy or whether I could take on the idea that I might meet one in the future? My first roommate in college was named Gertrude Steenbergen, but that was definitely not something I could imagine taking on. Gertrude had only been my roommate for a couple of months and she barely ever talked to me, mostly because she slept all day with the curtains closed so tightly that I had to grope around in the dark for the simplest things. I memorized the amount of steps it took me to get to my desk where my school books were perched and then to the door. When Gertrude finally left to room with someone else and I could let light back in the room, I found a used Kotex stuck to the top of her desk. It had probably been there for weeks. No, I said to Constance, no Trudy. Really? She cocked her head like she wasn't sure she entirely believed me. This is supremely silly, I thought. I should just let her off the hook somehow and tell her that I'm not a good bet for someone in training. I'm too literal or not literal enough. I waited as she looked at me softly. Then she said, what about David? I'm feeling David. Can you take that on? Well, everyone knows a David, I thought, but no, I couldn't take it on because there wasn't a really close David in my life, and the ones that I was fond of were very much alive. Wait a minute, is that what she meant? Any David or a dead David? No, I said. She said, I really feel a David. I internally waffled. Should I dredge up a David that I didn't even feel like taking on? I didn't want her to be disappointed. She'd left the pub, walked down the street. I'd taken her at her word that I didn't have to pay. She should get something out of this, even if I wasn't. So I decided to throw her a bone. I'm here in Newmarket because don't tell me. She said, only yeses or nos. Really? I thought, because so far it's just no's. A yes might feel really good. I'm getting, she said, circling her palm in front of my face, which almost threw her off the poof. Art. Are you an artist? Bingo! Yes! I almost yelled, and I stifled an urge to high-five her. She smiled, all teeth, and said, an artist, yes, a painter. Sort of. I was an artist, but no, not a painter. Was I supposed to say yes or no? I nodded slowly and tipped my head from side to side to indicate that she was warm, not hot. Yes, she said, you're a painter who paints landscapes. No. Portraits. No. Ah, I see. Did she? She said something about the challenges of being a painter, and then she said something about my art studio, and I could feel the whole thing going off the rails. I'm a writer, I blurted out. She looked at me mildly confused, which was not hard to understand after my mixed messaging. What I wanted to say was my mother was a painter. She was extraordinary, blending realism with non-realistic elements that were surprising, but were something like an unexpected line in a poem. But I didn't say any of that, mostly because she was off and running with the writer info. As she happily babbled on, I had plenty of time to ask myself why I had really invited Constance to my room. Was it just because I thought it would be a good story to tell? Certainly my inner cynic believed that. Indeed, my inner cynic was already planning on it. But that didn't account for the feeling that I was suddenly on the verge of bursting into tears and grabbing her shoulders, begging her for answers. But answers to what? I thanked her several times in a let's wrap this up tone, but she kept stabbing around and I kept offering more bones, but she had a stunningly poor strike rate. She had certainly given me a lot to think about, I said in a more definitive tone, picking up her purse and handing it to her. Well, I'm happy to do it, she said cheerfully. There's something about you, she repeated. You're dealing with so much sadness. Yes, I acknowledged, that's true. And I need the training, she said. Well, thank you for, you're very kind, I said, which was all true. She seemed very kind. Can I walk you out? After she left, I sat on the bed and it was there in a tiny room in a town that I lived over half a century ago, where I knew no one except now Constance, that I realized I hadn't completely surrendered to grief as much as I thought I had, because I hadn't asked myself the biggest question of all, which was, how do I feel whole again? How do I feel whole after losing both my parents, after my sons leaving to live their own lives, after losing my family home, after friends dying, even losing much of my natural optimism in the face of crushing political realities? How do I feel whole? And how will I feel whole in the future when there are even more inevitable losses? In that moment, it dawned on me that I had been secretly hoping for answers from Constance, not more questions. Rainier Maria Rilke wrote, "Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing, live along some distant day into the answer." I have been living this question about how to feel whole again ever since. And I am only now understanding that the gift of Constance was her spectacular wrongness. It gave me nothing to hang on to. I am the only person with the answers, if there are any. I was and am unformed, inchoate, and missing pieces. I am not whole, not now. And I may never achieve wholeness, but it is a spectacular question to live.
So, we've been doing 100 shows, right? And it's been a great 13 years. And I've been really lucky because we started a bodybuilder's gym. That's why we're called Strong Words, right? And for a long time, the show was a little bit of a boys' club. And then I met this amazing person at the gym who could do more crunches than any of the boys. And we've had an amazing ride. We teach storytelling, We travel, we've done shows in Toledo and Palm Springs, right? And I just couldn't be happier to introduce her. So in doing so, I'm going to sing her name. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Marlena. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Now you know why I wore black. Because it is my birthday, I was thinking a lot about, and I have to say I can't think of anybody better to spend it than with all my friends who are here today. Otherwise, I'd just be in a hole in the ground, so I think it's nicer. I wanted to talk about my parents because they're the ones responsible. In so many ways. As a young kid, I want to start with my dad, right? So my father, as a young kid, I know that my father controls time. He sets the faces of the clocks in all the rooms in all our house, and no two read the same. The alarm clock in my parents' bedroom is 20 minutes fast. The clock in the bathroom is 15. The display on the stove is 12 minutes fast, the pendulum in the living room is 7, and the clock in the car is 5. Now this system is based on his morning trajectory, which is basically kind of like this straight line from bedroom to bathroom, to living room to car. And his system is so good for him because he never feels rushed and he never feels late. But for the rest of us, it is chaos because the system itself is not static. Occasionally, and without rhyme or reason, he will add 2 minutes to a clock here, take 3 minutes of a clock there, depending on who the fuck knows. Maybe it was about the weather, maybe it was about how his hair was reacting to the weather, or probably it was really down to whether or not he was talking to my mother. And mommy is much more of kind of a zigzag through the house, like a linebacker, like a running back, really. And she's making breakfast, she's packing school bags, she's pulling up her pantyhose, and she is so thoroughly German and dependent on order that the only way she can cope is to not look at any clock ever, and just relies on her internal sense of time, which works until she hits my room when I'm 5 and 6, and I don't know if you've ever spent time with a 5 and a 6-year-old, but children can turn time into quicksand. And every time she enters, it's like, Mommy, 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 do you think I would make a good dancer? Mommy, 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 Mom, Mom, Mommy, you said that someday I could wear all your jewelry. Is someday today? I don't like grilled cheeses anymore, Mommy. Mommy, can we move to Spain? And just nonsense. And she ties off my pigtails and she goes back to her bedroom to dress for work. And usually it happens that she forgets that she's not supposed to look at the clock. And then I hear her yell, Malena, call time. I don't know if you know this, but time has a landline. Still. And I loved calling time because time, the recorded messages changed a little bit depending on region, and I grew up in the South, so I always imagined that time was kind of a Dolly Parton type. Big hair, big boobs, sitting in her lawn chair in the back of her Smoky Mountain mansion, just answering calls on a cordless and singing like, and at the tone, it'll be 7:34. Marlena! Sorry, Mommy, it's 7:34. And then my father just towers outside the bathroom door shaking his head at my mother going like, Maria, I just don't understand why you can't just accept what the clock says is true. And my mother with toothpaste running down her chin would be like, and Thomas, I can't understand why you should keep your hands off time. And then of course they would kiss, which to me as a child was like, yes! But then they would also kiss. My dad passed away when I was young, so it really left my mom and I kind of on our own. And my mother is a master tailor. She did her apprenticeship at this couture house in Berlin in Germany, and she ended up in the American South because of my dad. And part of that meant that she also went from high fashion to get regulated to this world of alterations. And alterations means, you know what I mean, like hems, side seams, adding shoulder pads, taking away shoulder pads. But she did attract this very steady clientele of Southern ladies because she had this uncanny ability to make a size 6 dress fit a size 14 or cut a 16 down to a 2. And she hated everything about alterations. But these women would just come and beg her, but Maria, I didn't mean to eat the pie, but the pie was there. Can you fix it, please? You have all them magic needles. Like she was some character out of the Grimm fairy tales. But I do mean like those ladies threw down and they brought Gucci, Versace, Valentino, Armani, Dior, Givenchy, Yves Saint Laurent, Halston, Bob fucking Mackie. All of these dresses came through our house. And that is how I developed this deep love of clothes. And I would really beg my mother. I would just beg her to let me try some of them on. I mean, forget that I didn't have the boobs, the ass, or anything to fit into these dresses yet, but I needed them. I needed them. Because as a daughter of a master tailor, you might think that I had all of these amazing clothes that she made for me from scratch. But no, I did not. Because sewing is how she paid for things. That paid for groceries, that paid for the rent, that paid for doctor's bills. It is not an industry with a very high profit margin. So it meant that she had to work all the time. And I swear that she put me in Catholic school just so I would have to wear uniforms. Because we are not Catholic. So whenever I would ask her to let me try on a Bob Mackie or maybe a Valentino, she'd tell me the same thing. She's like, "Nein, Marlena, they are full of pins. I will lose all of my markings." And then at night, we would have dinner on this dining room table that was enormous. Just for the two of us, it was like a table that was built for extended family that never showed up. And after clearing the dishes, the table became an operating table. And she would lay the next dress that she had to work on down onto the table, and she would whisper to it and say, "Ja, und jetzt, my love, we must open you up for surgery." Now, of all my mother's customers, the one who had the most clothes was the diva. She was literally a soprano who had once performed at the Metropolitan in New York, and she'd been buying gowns since like 1959. And every few years, the diva, this is why I loved her, the diva would go into the studio to record a version of the Ave Maria, expressly to be played at her funeral, because as she said, no other bitch is gonna sing over my grave. So she brought mommy like velvets and chiffons and silk taffeta gowns, and they were all stinking of perfume, but she wanted them to be completely overhauled because the diva had suffered from bone cancer at one point, and they had taken her collarbone and put it into her cheek. So on the right side, she was a little bit concave. And she always had mother sort of create these enormous bows or high collars to cover up for this imperfection. And this one Saturday, the diva brings, the best described is sort of like an upside down tulip dress. So that little collar and then full and down. And there is a symphony ball that's happening, and she's going to wear it to the symphony ball. And she wants this kind of stiff collar attached to it. And that night after dinner, Mommy leans over the dining table, trying to cut into the dress, and she is on the verge of tears. She's, how can I do this? I will ruin the dress. Oh, the people, they think it's so easy. Just add a color, add a bow. But this is cold blood. I'm going to kill it. I will kill all of the design. I used to make beautiful clothes, and now I destroy them. Who am I? And as if to prove herself correct, she pulls out this old photo album, and she starts showing me these pictures, but like from when she was young. So it's like 18, 19, 20, just after she finished her apprenticeship. And she is stunning. And her clothes are to die for. And she's like, look at this suit. Jackie Kennedy could have worn this suit. Look at my party dress. I had to take the bus to get to the party, but everyone on the bus thought I was on the cover of Vogue. Okay, seeing these photographs, which I'd seen before, but now in this new light, it really fascinated me, mostly because I wanted to know where the clothes were. You know, I was a tween, and I was very much interested in looking like I had just come off the cover of Vogue. So I started interrogating her. Where's this dress? What happened to this suit? How about these shoes? Well, what about this one? What about this? And she would say like, oh, I gave that to my sister. And oh, I think I gave it to a friend before I came to America. And the thing was, is my mom had me a little bit later in life. So she didn't really save anything for me because she had no idea I was going to show up. And there is this one photo of her in the Berlin Botanical Gardens sitting on a rock. But she is wearing like this beautiful sleeveless silk. It's Italian silk number in like a beige and cream and brown. And it just, when you look at this dress, it just looks like fall. And she said, oh, but I still have this one. And then she pulls it out of the back of her closet to show me. And when I see it, I just, Mommy, please. Please, can I have it? Please, I need it. Please, Mommy, let me have it. Mommy, let me have it. My mother's German. She refuses. She says, that's my life, not yours. And so for 3 nights, my mother is turning this diva's tulipy dress inside out, inspecting seams, trying to figure out what to do, and the whole time she's just like, but I don't know. I mean, I have to do it. I just take the whole thing apart. That's what I do. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not taking the whole thing apart. I have to do it. I'm not doing it. I have to do it. I'm not. And I have never really seen her so frustrated. Now, I can't sew. And I think that's in part on purpose because my mother didn't want to teach me. She didn't want me to become locked into that life. It's tedious, it's repetitive. But the one thing she did teach me out of necessity was how to rip garments apart. Because my mom had early onset arthritis, so it is a very meticulous job, especially when you're working on couture, because you have to hold a razor blade, not a picker, a razor blade, and you really have to sort of hit thread by thread to unravel the seams and separate everything apart, because the ultimate commandment is never make a hole. So I always get home from school a little bit before my mom gets off work, and so to help her, I take the diva's dress off the rack and I began to rip open the seams, which I gotta tell you, was not easy. The seams sort of went curved and I couldn't even trace how it all moved around the dress, but I got it after a few hours, and finally I separate all of the dress's pieces over the chairs around our enormous dining table. It looks a little bit like a conference is about to happen. And then when my mother comes home, she can't speak because the only thing she could say is, "What have you done?" Because I took for granted that she could do anything, Maria's magic needles and all of that, but she actually didn't know how to put it back together because she's not the one who took it apart. Now, the first cardinal rule of our house, of course, don't cut holes in the fabric. The second cardinal rule, don't make more work for Mom. So as penance, because I'm in Catholic school, I attempted to be the perfect daughter. I packed my own lunch, I ironed my uniform, I took out the trash, I did no whining, I asked for nothing while she was trying to figure it out. And that Friday night before the next Saturday when the diva had this other appointment, I can hear my mother up sort of late into the night. But when I get up the next morning and the diva arrives, the dress is somehow miraculously in one piece, and it's hanging on the steamer. But there is nothing. There are no bows, there's no collar, there's nothing added to it, and the diva is not happy. But I have to say that my mother gives this really command performance, because she goes to her and she's like, "Na yeah, this dress, this is beautiful, yes, of course, the dress is beautiful. We have to admit that the dress is beautiful, but do you want beauty? No, you don't just want beauty, you want to be stunning. Not this dress." And then she brings out this other dress that the diva had left a couple of weeks ago, which was it was the late 80s. So it's red and pink column dress, velvet, beautifully draped, but she has the most enormous bow I have ever seen that sort of grazes under her chin and over her shoulder and then cascades down, that my mother has added to this dress. And as soon as she pulls away from the driveway, my mom takes me and she rolls out this paper on the table and she shows me. She's like, "I traced the pieces of the dress and look. The shape, the way it all holds together, it looks like a heart. But it's not like, oh, it's a heart, it's like a fist. With all the tubes connecting to the rest of the body, and this is how he made the dress. This is a secret that only I know, and now I wouldn't have known it unless you tore the thing apart." And that same day, she actually gives me the dress that she had still from when she was 18, 19, that Italian silk that she wore into the botanical gardens, because she said, "You are right, and it should be yours. Because the most beautiful things, they are always made by hand. And when you wear this, you will always be in my hands." Thank you.
Let's bring those handsome young men back up on stage, shall we? Yeah. So, gratitude to Kevin. Kevin, you out there? There he is. And Diana for having us back for time number 5. It was such a delight. You know, normally we take August off because it's hot. But when Kevin asked, it reminded me of my favorite thing about summer. Can anybody guess? The bookmobile. Summer is when the bookmobile would come to our house. It would bring the books to me. So thank you, Kevin, for bringing us to the books. It's a great place to do a show in the house of stories. Come on out, guys. Send us home. Thank you for coming. StrongWordsLive.com is our website. We're on Instagram and Facebook and anything else. Do we tick? Do we talk? No, we don't tick or talk. And we have a show in Atwater Village next month. That'll be show number 102.
Thank you. Hey. Oh, man. This show, this day has been really beautiful. It makes me very happy. Thank you, Larry, for inviting me to do this. And it was so beautiful to hear Lynn. This song I'm going to do is, I just felt I had to do it at the LA Library because it's all about LA, and part of it is based on the literary community of the World Stage. And you know that place, you can give it a round of applause. It's a great play. This song came out of that, and it's called A Good Day in LA. Sugar on caffeine, the snow caps the mountains, the sun rises warm by the sea. I hear from a friend while she sleeps in my bed and waits while I talk to Steve. One of the boys from the high school calls to say he's doing all right. And this painter I met is blowing up my phone, and it's a good day in LA. 68 and clear. It's a good day for a bike to the ocean, and the sun is so sincere. Tonight the world stage is filled with love. My friends and I listen to Ruth. Then I take the stage there with Billy and Ace. Can't imagine how people can hate. We play with the history, we laugh with the pain that is giving us strength to love. And Grandma claps from a big chair in heaven, and it's a good day in LA. 68 and clear. It's a good day for a bike to the ocean, and the sun is so sincere. And when I think of all the flack we get, it's just because we're admired. I say, check out, you can leave at will. I'll take sunshine. It's hard to keep up with all of this beauty and still keep your sanity. You'd never disturb another man's peace. Sometimes I fail this decree. Some days it rains, some days it's brown, some days all are green. And hummingbirds hover here, looking for sweet, and it's a good day in LA. 68 and clear. It's a good day for a bike to the ocean, and the sun is so sincere. Okay, now I know that you can sing, right? You can sing? So all you gotta do is say good day in LA. It goes like this. It's a good day in LA. It's a good day in LA. Good day in LA. It's a good day in LA. One more time. Good day in LA. Yeah. Thank you so much. Hey, I got one more for you. One more? Yeah. All right. So, this song is, I just wrote a new song that's not really, we haven't rehearsed, but I just want to start off with that because I feel a lot of joy right now. And so, yeah, so we're just going to start with some joy. And I wrote this, song about 3 months ago. And it feels even more appropriate right now. And the song that we're going to segue into, I wrote around 2008. So you guys can maybe guess what I'm thinking about. So that's a source of joy for me. So, you too? Yeah. Saying now, joy to my mother, joy to my father, joy to the brother just singing his song, joy to the sister, joy to the neighbor, joy to the lovers that fear no stranger, joy to the helpers, joy to the teachers, joy to the children and the non-believers. That's my joy. Now, the sing-along for you is goes like this. Let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. Got that? Let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. Oh yeah, shine, let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. Let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. We can't change the weather if we won't go outside. Why would you ask me? Why should I try? Holding on, hoping for a change to come. Outside change is raining, I'm reaching for the sun. Let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. Let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. There's still a place for conflict, I'll give that due respect. Tell me what you're needing, I'll try to do my best. My hope is to be graceful, and my hope is you'll be too. Leave heartbreak and protection behind, neither helps you move. Let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. Let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. I got great expectations, I'm old enough to know. Just because you want it to be doesn't make it so. So I'm holding on, hoping for better than cliche. Sometimes you gotta let go, kick down out of your way. Let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. Let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. Let it shine, let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. And let it shine, and dance to the music, let it shine. It's our moment in the sun. Thank you so much. Enjoy the sunshine. Endless LA summer. Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you, everybody here in the library. Thank you for doing the good sound up there. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.